Hello, I am Bryan Beck. This is the flight scenario presentation for Aviation 326. This week we are going through and making a video covering a topic that's useful for commercial training. I'm going to lose a little bit of creativity points here, but the scenario I'm coming up with actually is very, very similar to the one my DPE gave me for my check ride coming up in a couple of weeks here. There's a lot of good stuff to go through here regarding things you need to know as a commercial pilot, regulations and whatnot. Kind of goes beyond the usual private pilot level performance and external pressures type checks that we usually go through. So the scenario is a cross-country flight. It's a three-leg flight where you're picking up passengers and cargo and moving people around the Midwest. So in this instance that I built up, excuse me, we're going to be flying from Columbus up to Cleveland. In Cleveland, the point is you're flying up there to pick up some cargo and move it to Chicago, Midway specifically. And from Midway, you're going to be picking up two passengers and moving them back down to Columbus. So we'll kind of break down some of the risks associated with that and some regulations to look out for. This we just talked about, but breaking it down a little bit more, the airplane we're flying is a pretty darn new Piper Archer, well maintained, no issues there. Environmentally speaking, we're looking at good VFR weather for the flight, so that's not really the concern here. What's interesting is more of the external pressures in this regard. You've got one solo leg, one leg flying some packages around, and then another leg flying passengers around. So there's some things to watch out for in that regard. Each of these flights are pretty darn long. They're all over 200 miles, so you want to make sure that you've got ample fuel. You want to make sure that you've done flight planning and make sure that you're safe to go this kind of distance and what kind of weather you're looking at. Each leg is going to have a different weight and balance for the airplane, so it's going to perform a little bit differently on each flight. You're going to have to handle passengers in this, and then we're going to have to break down what can and can't you get paid for in this regard. What do you have to do to get paid for a flight like this? Okay, the first leg is really simple. We're just flying from Columbus, specifically Bolton, Tango Zulu Romeo here, up to Cleveland. Just a VFR flight. A couple things you want to make sure you know ahead of time for a leg like this is your VFR rules regarding Class Bravo communication. Getting in and out of there is a little tricky when you're VFR, so you want to make sure you're prepared for that. The other thing is it's just a really busy airport, so you're going to want to make sure you have a taxi diagram, runway signs and markings and stuff around the airport so you don't go getting lost. And you want to know where you're going when you get there so you know you can pull up to whatever FBO, get fuel, get your cargo, get ready for your next flight. The next flight is the longest of the three legs. So first we need to know how much cargo we're picking up, how many packages, how much is it going to weigh, and how are we going to load the airplane so that we know that we're staying under our gross weight and within the envelope here. Are we going to be able to fly with full fuel? If not, we're going to have to make a fuel stop here because this long of a flight, we're going to be landing pretty close to VFR minimums for fuel. It's actually double, but so you're going to want to make sure you do your weight balance. You're going to want to make sure you have enough fuel. You're going to be flying into and out of very busy airports. You want to be familiar with the area, really be on your game, looking for traffic, paying attention to ATC and what they need you to do. And the other concern with this is, can we get paid for this? We'll break that down in a minute. Our third leg here, once we landed in Midway, we are dropping off these packages and we're picking up passengers and flying them from Chicago down to Columbus. Once again, you've got a new weight and balance. You want to know how much do these passengers weigh, how much baggage are they bringing, and how much does that weigh? Where are you going to put it in the airplane? Make sure it all makes sense for weight and balance. And again, can you get paid for this? This we just kind of talked about. Just these are the real complex parts of this flight. Is again your weight and balance for everything, and whether or not you can get paid for it. So is this private or is this common carriage? How does this work out? The main thing to consider here, and the main variable we really haven't talked about yet, is who is supplying the aircraft. This would be considered common carriage if this would be considered, holding out. If you, the pilot, are supplying the aircraft and your piloting abilities, services, then you'd be considered holding out, and you wouldn't be able to accept payment for a flight like this. The difference is if the customer is the one supplying the aircraft. Perhaps you're going to do some work for a company that needs some packages moved and needs some people moved around. You could fly their airplane and they could pay you to move these people around. Or perhaps you work for a company who has a 135 certificate and is chartering this operation to go have packages and people moved around. Those are kind of the loopholes that you can use to go get paid for it. But as far as me renting an Archer, flying to Cleveland to pick up boxes and then flying to Midway to pick up people, I'm supplying the pilot and the aircraft, and I can't accept payment for something like that. So other things to look at. That's really about it. It's a little different than the usual scenario topics that we go through regarding what's going on in the environment and the pilot, and going through your usual I'm safe checklist. This breaks down a little bit more of the rules and regulations that you need to watch out for as a commercial pilot. So that is all I have. Thank you.